Good afternoon. If you listen to that introduction, you get the sense that I do something with marketing. I teach marketing. But what I study, what I do research on, is the subject of deception. I study a little bit about how we detect deception. I study how much people lie, what the prevalence of lying is. And from that research, I know that most people tell the truth most of the time. A few people tell a lot of the lies. We call those folks prolific liars. The prolific liars, to give you a sense of the scope, a prolific liar, about 5% of the population we call prolific liars, and they tell more than half of all the lies that get told. Okay, so why do people lie? In some cases, it's fairly obvious. All right, let's go back to the question. So why do people lie? And before we talk about why people lie, or maybe as a precursor to it, we need to talk about something else, and that is, why do people communicate? Well, people communicate because they want to build connections with other people, and they want to be able to coordinate their actions and the things that they do with other people. And so, as human beings, we do things like communicate in order to build and maintain relationships. We communicate in order to inform other people about things. Sometimes we do it to entertain. I'm attempting to do that. We'll see whether I succeed or not. We do it as part of social ritual. We are polite. We greet other people. We say hi, hello, how are you? And we also communicate in order to persuade people to act in a particular way or to think in a particular way. In essence, communication is a means to an end. It is purposive behavior. Now, at the same time that we're trying to achieve something when we communicate, our brains are working really, really fast. We're drawing upon our memories, the things that we've learned, that we've experienced, that we've thought about in the past. And as we're constructing our messages, we're pulling from all of these different areas in the brain. And we're accessing those things which are salient and relevant to what it is that we're communicating. As I say, this is all happening very, very fast. In fact, it tends to be simultaneous with our speaking and talking. We're trying to organize and structure our thoughts even as we speak. All right. Now, not only do our brains work very efficiently, but we try and act efficiently. In the 1940s, there was a Harvard scholar by the name of George Ziff, and Ziff said, human behavior is guided by the need to do the most, acquire the most, with the least amount of effort. Now, Ziff had lots of examples to support this, and one of them, which is perhaps most interesting and perhaps important for what we're talking about today, is language. Ziff said that language is governed by the principles of unification and diversification. He called them forces. And so when Ziff was talking about unification, what he was saying was that if we could use just one word to mean everything, use it all the time. And his example was bah. Okay. Don't ask me why. But at any rate, so he says, if you have this one word and you use it for everything, that would be really, really simple and easy and efficient. And that's what he meant by unification. But he said there's a little problem with that, and that is nobody's going to understand us. So he also said that sometimes we use a lot of words, but infrequently, once or twice, that's all. And that's what he meant by diversification. So Ziff said, if we want to be effective in communicating, we have to strike a balance between the forces of unification and the forces of diversification. Let me show you what that looks like. Here's a piece of text. This happens to be from the Wikipedia reference for Robert England. Some of you know him as Freddy Krueger. Others of you may know him as an Oakland University graduate. Anyway, you take a piece of text, and you guys can do this at home. Take a newspaper clipping, take a short story, take the paper that you turned in last week and you got a B on. Take that bit of text and count how many times each unique word is used. Then take those words and rank order them from most frequent to least frequent. What you'll see is that you have a few words that you use very frequently and a lot of words that are used infrequently. Ziff says that for us to communicate efficiently, we strike a balance between the two. Okay, so if you're still with me at this point, if you're still with me, I've said three things about communication. First of all, it's purposeful. It's a means to an end. Secondly, we tend to think very rapidly. While we communicate, our minds are assembling all of these bits and pieces of memory as we're communicating. And the third thing that I said is that people are lazy. Efficient, excuse me. All right. So let's get back to the question that I'm trying to answer here. Why do we lie? The evolutionary biologist Carl Bergstrom said, if we can communicate, we can manipulate. And lying is manipulative communication. Lying is communicating by not telling the truth. Okay, so there are two types of situations I'd like to exclude from my discussion. The first of them is pathological lying. A pathological liar is somebody who's compulsive about their lying. They lie all the time. Sometimes they don't even know that they're lying. I don't mean to suggest that we can tell a pathological liar from somebody who lies a lot. Just want to make the point that normal people like us, we lie for a reason. Now, the other idea that I would like to take out of this discussion is the notion that sometimes we lie and we don't know that we're doing it. Perhaps that's because we've been misinformed. Maybe it's because somebody lied to us, but we say things that we believe to be true that aren't. And in those circumstances, it's not that we're trying to deceive anybody. The lie is unintentional. And so that's kind of a special case. The lies that occur most often, and the reason people lie, some of them are harmful, and some of them are a little less so. The hurtful lies, these are the kind of lies that people tell because they have something that they want to accomplish that isn't particularly socially acceptable or desirable. And some people tell lies in order to hurt other people. They tell lies that are they're evil, they're angry, they are intended to make somebody else unhappy. And sometimes the people who tell these kinds of lies, they do it because for them it's a kind of pleasure. They enjoy doing it. Like the idiots who will call in a phony bomb threat. Their purpose in lying is to amuse themselves. We call those particular people duping delight. Now, there are other reasons that people tell hurtful lies. So for example, a lie can be told by a criminal in order to cover up the crime or maybe as part of doing the crime. Thieves tell lies, terrorists tell lies. We won't even talk about politicians. Okay. All right. The other kind of lies that we tell are, I call them normal lies because they're part of our everyday communication. And let me give you three big examples. The first of those is we tell lies to protect other people. We tell lies because we want to be polite. We don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. We may even believe that telling the lie will be beneficial to them. You know the lies I'm talking about. Now, sometimes we tell lies to protect ourselves. You know, we want to save face. We want to avoid embarrassment. We want to avoid conflict. We want to avoid punishment. What's the most common protective lie that we tell? I didn't do it. And the third common thing that we do is we tell lies to promote ourselves. We tell other people things about ourselves because we want them to perceive us as being smarter or more interesting or more attractive. These kinds of lies show up in business settings, like somebody who pads their resume. They show up in personal relationships. So an example of that might be somebody who sheds a few pounds and sheds a few years when they create their website, dating website profile. They see the opportunity as being better than the consequences. All right. We marketers, we tell lies to promote ourselves, or as really is the case, promote our products. We will tell people about what's good about our products, and we won't tell them what's bad about our products. We call that a lie of omission. As consumers, we pretty much accept that because we understand that what producers are trying to do, what marketers are trying to do, is they're trying to convince somebody to buy their products. So, a lie that you'll never see looks something like this. Okay. So let me pull things together here. We know that when we communicate, we're trying to achieve a goal. Lying is a form of communication, so it's one way in which we set out to achieve our goals. It's a means to an end. We know that we're going to use as little effort as possible to be most efficient. And the way that happens, our brain is picking these bits of information that it's going to put together and use as we communicate, as we say what it is that we're trying to say. So it brings us back to the question, why do people lie? Now, if you think about all the things I've said so far, the answer becomes pretty simple. People lie when the truth doesn't work. Thank you.